Adrian Cole had built an empire from nothing, yet all his success felt meaningless when he returned home each night to the quiet, echoing penthouse that never quite felt alive. His only anchor was Lily, his 6-year-old daughter, whose laughter softened the steel edges of his heart. But even with her, there was always a gnawing fear in the back of his mind. Was he enough? That fear returned full force when Miranda, his ex-fiancée, cornered him after a board meeting. With her perfected smile and venom-laced words, she whispered, "The board doesn't respect a man who can't even hold a family together. Do you really think Lily will grow up happy watching you struggle alone?" The words cut deeper than Adrian let show. That night, he stood in the kitchen doorway, silently watching Emma wipe down the marble counters. She worked quietly, as she always did, her chestnut hair falling into her face until she tucked it back with a quick, almost shy gesture. She didn't notice his gaze until he cleared his throat. Emma straightened instantly, clutching the rag in her hands. "Mr. Cole, is something wrong? I can make you tea, if you'd like." Adrian shook his head, stepping closer. His suit jacket hung open, his tie loosened from the day's battles, but his eyes carried an intensity that made Emma's stomach flutter nervously. "I need a favor," he said at last, his voice low but firm. Emma blinked. "A favor?" "Yes." He hesitated. "Something unusual for the confident CEO. I need you to pretend to be my girlfriend." The rag slipped from Emma's fingers, landing on the spotless floor. She stared at him, wide-eyed. "Me?" Her voice cracked. "But I'm your maid." "Exactly." His lips curved in something that wasn't quite a smile. "That's why I can trust you. You're not after my money, or my name. You care for Lily, and she trusts you. That's more than I can say for anyone else in my life." Emma's heart hammered. She had always kept her role professional, stay invisible, do her work, and never cross the line. But now, standing in the warmth of his gaze, with the weight of his request pressing on her, she felt the ground shift beneath her. "Mr. Cole, this isn't a small thing," she whispered, shaking her head. "What would people say?" Adrian stepped closer, close enough that Emma could smell the faint cologne clinging to him, warm, clean, expensive. "They'll say I finally found someone who makes me happy. That's all that matters." For a moment, silence stretched between them. Emma's lips parted, but no words came. She had no idea why her chest tightened, why her cheeks burned under his stare. She only knew that once she said yes, nothing in her world, or his, would ever be the same. The transformation was almost unreal. Emma had spent most of her adult life in plain cotton dresses and aprons, blending into the background of other people's homes. But now, standing in front of the tall mirror in Adrian's penthouse bedroom, she hardly recognized the woman staring back at her. The silky navy gown clung to her curves, its neckline elegant but daring, its fabric shimmering softly under the light. Her hair, normally tied back for practicality, fell in loose waves around her shoulders. She looked like someone who belonged in Adrian's world, and that terrified her. "Are you ready?" His voice came from the doorway. Emma turned, nearly stumbling at the sight of him. Dressed in a perfectly tailored black suit, Adrian radiated effortless power, but there was something gentler in his eyes as they scanned over her. For just a moment, his usual stoic mask cracked. "You clean up well," he said, clearing his throat, almost awkwardly. Emma's cheeks warmed. "You make it sound like I usually don't." He smirked faintly, extending his arm. "Shall we?" The gala was everything Emma had feared. Glittering chandeliers bathed the room in golden light, laughter echoed across the hall, and women in diamonds whispered behind jeweled glasses of champagne. She clung to Adrian's arm like a lifeline, forcing a smile when people's eyes lingered too long. To her surprise, Adrian played his role perfectly. His hand rested at the small of her back, firm and protective, guiding her through the crowd. He introduced her without hesitation, his deep voice steady. "This is Emma, my partner." Each time he said it, Emma's heart skipped. Partner. She told herself it was pretend, but the weight of his touch and the warmth in his tone felt dangerously real. Back at home, Emma helped Lily into pajamas, brushing out her dark curls. Lily hugged her tightly, resting her head on her shoulder. "I like when you go with Daddy," Lily murmured sleepily. "You smile more when he's around." Emma froze, her chest tightening. Out of the mouths of children came truths too raw to ignore. She tucked Lily in, kissed her forehead, and lingered by her bedside long after the child drifted to sleep. Later, in the quiet of the living room, Adrian poured 2 glasses of wine. He handed one to Emma, his eyes softer than she'd ever seen them. "You were incredible tonight," he said. Emma shook her head, laughing nervously. "I felt like an imposter. Like everyone knew I didn't belong." Adrian leaned closer, his gaze never leaving hers. "Emma, you belong more than any of them. Don't ever doubt that." Her breath caught. For the first time, she wondered if the danger wasn't in pretending too poorly, but in pretending too well. The penthouse was unusually quiet that night. Adrian had stayed later at the office, fighting off board members who seemed more interested in gossip about his personal life than the company's future. By the time he finally returned home, exhaustion weighed heavily on his shoulders. But the moment he stepped inside, the sight before him made his chest tighten. Emma sat curled on the leather sofa, her head tilted against the cushions, fast asleep. In her arms was Lily, nestled close with her small hand clutched in Emma's dress. An open storybook lay across Emma's lap, its pages scattered with colorful drawings of castles and dragons. The soft rise and fall of their breathing filled the room, and for once, the vast penthouse didn't feel cold or empty, it felt like home. Adrian stood there for a long time, simply watching. He had hired Emma out of necessity, asked her into this fake relationship out of strategy, but nothing about this moment felt fake. Quietly, he walked over and draped a blanket over the two of them, his hand lingering near Emma's hair longer than it should have. Something was changing, and he could no longer ignore it. At the next gala, Emma had been radiant in emerald green, her laughter bright as she spoke with one of Adrian's colleagues. But Miranda noticed too. She swept in like a storm, her smile sharp as glass. "Enjoying your Cinderella moment," Miranda whispered coldly when she cornered Emma near the champagne table. "Don't fool yourself. He'll get bored. Men like Adrian don't end up with women like you. You're just the help." The words sliced deeper than Emma wanted to admit. That night, as Adrian drove them home, she sat silently in the passenger seat, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. When they returned to the penthouse, she finally spoke, her voice trembling. "I can't do this anymore, Mr. Cole. I don't belong in your world. People like her, they're right. I'm just a maid playing dress up." Adrian turned sharply, his expression unreadable. For a heartbeat, Emma thought he might agree. But instead, his voice came out raw, almost desperate. "Don't ever say that again." He stepped closer, his eyes locking onto hers with an intensity that stole her breath. "Emma, it stopped being pretend a long time ago." Her heart pounded, her throat dry, as she searched his face for the truth behind those words. And in his eyes, she found it, the dangerous, unspoken feeling she'd been trying so hard to ignore. The fever came suddenly. One moment Lily was giggling over her coloring book, the next she was pale and shivering in Emma's arms. Panic jolted through Adrian like lightning, but before he could even call the doctor, Emma was already moving. Cool cloths, medicine, gentle whispers that soothed the frightened child. "Shish, sweetheart, I'm right here," Emma murmured, stroking Lily's damp hair as she lay in bed. She stayed beside her through the night, humming soft lullabies until the little girl's trembling finally eased into sleep. Adrian stood in the doorway, watching with a heaviness in his chest he couldn't put into words. Emma's patience, her warmth, the way she poured herself into caring for his daughter, it wasn't an act. She wasn't just filling a role. She was already part of them, woven into their lives in ways he hadn't even noticed until now. By dawn, Lily's fever broke. Emma, exhausted but still awake, sat slumped beside the bed. Adrian stepped into the room, his voice low. "You didn't leave her side all night." Emma smiled faintly, brushing Lily's hair back from her forehead. She needed someone to stay. Adrian's throat tightened. He wanted to say it, everything that had been building between them, but fear held him back. Not fear of rejection, but fear of ruining the fragile trust she had placed in him. Later that evening, when Lily was finally sleeping peacefully, he found Emma on the balcony. The city stretched out below them in a sea of lights, but Adrian's eyes were only on her. She leaned against the railing, her hair catching in the cool night breeze, her expression distant, as if she were reminding herself she didn't belong here. He couldn't let her believe that. "Not anymore, Emma," he began, stepping closer. She turned, startled by the rawness in his voice. This started as a lie. A business arrangement. But every day, it's felt less like pretending and more like breathing. Her lips parted, but no sound came. The weight of his words, the vulnerability in his eyes, pinned her in place. Adrian reached for her hand, his grip gentle but certain. You've given Lily laughter again. You've given me something I didn't think I deserved, a home that feels alive. You've stolen my heart, Emma. Not as my maid, not as my fake girlfriend. Just as you. Tears welled in Emma's eyes, spilling before she could stop them. She shook her head, whispering, I never meant to. But I think I gave you mine a long time ago. Adrian exhaled, relief washing through him as he cupped her face, his thumb brushing away a tear. And then, under the silver glow of the city lights, he kissed her. Slow, tender, and filled with every unspoken word between them. For the first time, there was no pretending. Only the beginning of something real.